Hi everyone. Now we're going to see about the ethics and legal issues in psychotherapy. We have already discussed in the previous video. So this is the continuation of that video. So in that, informed consent is the next ethic. This is nothing but the patient decision should be uh, termed clearly, and the patient should be informed about the process, what are all the process should be done in the therapy session. So this consent form should be signed by the patient and the therapist with the process with the ethical manner. So next is therapeutical contract. This is very important. This is what are all the what are all the items would be included. Therapeutical contract will be discussed in this slides. So the therapeutical contract should be written, document and which includes the responsibility of the therapist and the client in participating in a particular psychotherapy. So it covers all the following items, which is like this: the therapy session should be always documented. The therapy process contract should be documented, and that should be the responsibility of the therapist, and the client will be discussed in that contract. So the list of the items is timing. First, they will discuss about the timing and by what day it starts and end, the duration. Say for example, it can be 45 minutes or 50 minutes, or how many session each they takes, or should be clearly mentioned in the document. Second will be the frequency of session. For some issues, it can be like weekly twice or thrice. For some issues, it can be for more than weekly 4 to 5 times. So it is depend upon the issue, and it is depend upon the client's necessity. Okay, so the frequency of session should be clearly mentioned and discussed. That will be according to their problem or the symptoms which the patient or client has. So late to the session, if the therapist will be late and he's try to let the client know in advance, even if the delay is just a few minutes. So if the therapist is late for a session, he or should be in advance should inform the client in prayer. Whereas if the therapist is responsible for delay in the start of session, and the client can stay longer, the therapist will see the client for the full time. Okay, if the therapy is a 50 minutes session, then he can be discuss that until the 50 minutes gets over. And if the client arrives later for the appointment, then the session may still end with the scheduled time. Okay, if the client comes later for the therapy, the therapist should cannot wait, because they have some other commitment or some other patient to solve out. So the client should be arrive fast to the therapy, or that time should be end up with the session immediately. So if either the therapist or client in the late by more than 15 minutes don't inform the other party, then the session will stand cancelled. However, in such situation, either the party has to be bear with the financial responsibility. For this, both client and the therapist will be involved, and they both has the responsibility. So the cancellation is in the event of either the client or therapist or unable to keep the appointment, they are required to provide 24 hours notice of cancellation. They will be charged for the session. Before the session start, or the clients or therapy should is their need of cancellation, they should be reported prior the 24 hours. Then fees details should be clearly mentioned in the consent form for the session, for every day or in the weekly base or hourly base, that should be discussed with the patient. That is the responsibility of the therapist. And issue of confidentiality, the therapy contract should mention that the therapist will be maintain confidentiality of the information that should not be relieved during the psychotherapy session. If the therapist should give the trustworthy and that session will be importantly confidential, that they will not disclose any of their information to other parties. That will be mentioned there. Then the termination, if the client decide to discontinue the therapy, he will make to know that therapy with the session, and they can end up with that session with the decision of the client, and the therapy can work together. So termination of the therapy cannot be done on the phone call. It should be in the person. Next is like there should not be any gifts or allowed in the therapy session. The client should not disclose any gift, whereas the therapist also. So any type of gifts should not be exchanged. Self disclosure, the therapy will focus on the issue of the client, and the therapist will not be responsible to any questions regarding the personal details, and any such attempt by the client will be interpreted. So self disclosure should not be there. The therapist should there is the no need for the therapist to disclose his identity or his personal details to the to the client during the therapy session. That should not be disclosed. Thank you.